So how to achieve Mandarin fluency in 6 months? That's from zero, remember. Okay. First step, you start with pronunciation. Now this applies to any language, but you need to learn how to read the pinyin. That's the Romanized version of the sounds of Mandarin, not characters yet. You need to learn how to produce all of the sounds and how to identify the sounds. Okay, so there's 3 aspects to pronunciation which you need to learn. And some of the benefits of doing this, just briefly, you gain immense confidence and motivation. I spent a lot of time on pronunciation, didn't I, early on? And that gave me so much confidence from native speakers saying, that sounded really good. You know, the grammar was off, maybe, but that sounded awesome. And that gives you the motivation to continue. You can communicate more effectively, which is more motivation. People can understand what you said. And it's actually, pronunciation, especially in the early days, is more important than getting the words in the right order.
Far more important.
It's
not even close. And another thing about this is the flip side of this is that if your pronunciation is off, the reason why it's such a motivation killer is that you might have practiced your words, you might have practiced your grammar and getting all these things, and then you go to say it, and it's so disheartening when the Chinese person you're talking to still doesn't get what you're talking about. And you might have said it correctly in terms of the grammar or the words or whatever, but because your tongue was in the wrong place and because your tones were off, they're like, did you just ask me about my dog? You're asking for directions or whatever. So that's
very easy to make those mistakes in Chinese as well. So also, on the other hand, of course, you'd impress native speakers and not just get compliments, but genuinely you'll be seen as a person of more value, because it's like that quote, I can't remember the exact quote, but Nelson Mandela was saying, like, you communicate in a language he knows. You can communicate with his mind, but if you communicate in his language, his native tongue, you communicate with his heart. So it's like, and also that you shows that you've made a lot of effort, which immediately gives you that, and that can open up all sorts of opportunities, both business, financial, romantic, all sorts of things like that. So it also improves your listening. So this is where we get to the more practical side of it. So pronunciation, having great pronunciation early on, will allow you to learn words and therefore grammar much quicker, because you'll be able to understand what you hear easier and delineate between the sounds.
That one might not seem so obvious, the point about listening, because you think, well, listening and producing sounds are totally separate, but there is definitely something about how your brain responds to going through the process of learning how to produce the sounds that does map onto when somebody else speaks, especially when you have sounds that are close to each other in Chinese. Like, for example, zhan and jian. They're somewhat similar, but when you know how to produce them properly, then what you end up with is a better understanding when a Chinese person is saying it. And when you don't have that understanding of the differences in how to produce those two sounds, you hear them say one and you think it's the other and you get confused. So it's surprising that would be true, or at least it was surprising to me, but it's definitely one of the biggest benefits of learning pronunciation.
And that actually improves your reading and writing. Because everything is connected to pronunciation. Learning characters is directly connected to it, learning new words. And
typing.
Typing, of course, is all pinyin, the Romanized version. That's how Chinese people type. And all this basically means you'll get to your goal of fluency much faster than if you had rubbish pronunciation, like most people do. That you have gaps in your pronunciation, you'll miss out. Think of all the words you'll miss out on because you don't have that ability to identify and delineate between similar sounds or whatever. And you extrapolate that over a period of months or years. So basically pronunciation, good. Bad, not having pronunciation, bad, right? So pronunciation mastery is the course we made for this. And originally we put it out for $400 when we first released it. And we got lots of people to sign up for it. But now it's actually just a free part of it. It's more like, we call it pre-phase, don't we? It's the preliminary course that you must take if you want success with our much larger part of our course, the Mandarin Blueprint Method, which we'll get into later. But essentially, just really quick, we decided that the pronunciation resources out there were confusing, contradictory sometimes, poor quality overall. So we just made this 6-hour course that covers every single thing you need to know about Chinese pronunciation, tones, syllables, everything, tone pairs, all in one course with a bunch of 2 hours of bonus video as well, and lots of PDFs and audio flashcards and things like that. So again, we'll come back to this later, but there is a solution that we made for this, which is better than anything else we know out there.
And just a point about that, it's possible to learn all of Mandarin's pronunciations in one video course, which is not true of many languages, especially English. There's 16,000 syllables approximately in English. So you couldn't just start learning English by going over 16,000 syllables. It would take you years, right? So like obviously you don't do that with other languages. There's only about 420 syllables in Mandarin, which makes it possible. Some of them are hard to articulate, but again, it's a very achievable first step, and it makes you feel really good when you do get through the whole course.
Absolutely. So once you've started to master pronunciation, you don't have to finish the whole thing, of course, but at least you're getting going with it. You jump straight into characters. That's step 2.
谢谢你观看我们的这个视频. If you found this video valuable and you'd like us to help you reach fluency and literacy in Mandarin Chinese as fast as possible without all the headache of traditional learning methods, just head to mandarinblueprint.com to learn more. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell below to be notified every time we release a new video. And of course, 保重.